These are the faces of the poor, intelligent, full of capacity and promise. Their eyes say it all, but for some trick of birth, they have inherited poverty, their lives wasted away just trying to survive. We share humanity, so why is it that some of us have so much and these who work just as hard have so little? Can ordinary people do anything about this? Can you do something about it? The answer is surprising. No. Not if we try to help the poor the ways we always have. But yes, 100,000 times yes, if we look into these faces and recognize what is there, the enormous gifts waiting to be awakened to solve their own problems. Dr. James Mayfield and Choice Humanitarian are pioneering a revolutionary model with new solutions to eliminate poverty, and you are invited to join the circle of people who are going to make this happen.
I've been trying to solve the problems of poverty for 50 years, and I've seen a lot of people with good intentions wanting to solve the problems of poverty. The challenge that we face is to go into a country and see where millions of dollars have been spent, where many different strategies and approaches have been tried, and there's still poverty, and the problems are still there. And I've struggled with what it is that we're doing wrong and trying to determine what it is that we should do that's right.
We give people stuff, but instead of being enriched by it, the opposite happens. Increased dependency and frustration, even animosity. We create a kind of fatalism in the people we mean to help, breed apathy, steal their pride and dignity. We send a message: you aren't capable, you are children.
It was a number of years ago that I remember visiting a project that one of the major donor agencies had implemented in Indonesia. They had spent $27 million trying to put water systems into the island of Java, beautiful island. And I went back with a team about 4 years after this money had been spent and these water projects had been implemented. And I was shocked that about 85% of these water projects were not working. The pumps were broken, they didn't have the spare parts. And I was struggling with, we spent all this money and the water pumps are not working. And it was at that moment when I asked a village leader what he thought was the reason for this problem. He looked at me and he said, "Mr. Mayfield, it's simple. You've built these pumps, and we're waiting for you Americans to come back and fix your pumps." And when he said "your pumps," that's when I first realized, I had an epiphany. It was a change in my whole mindset, that we were trying to change villages when we should have been trying to change villagers.
Dr. Mayfield knew there had to be a new solution for eliminating poverty, and he has pioneered it through Choice Humanitarian. It is called the Self-Developing Village Program, where people are systematically trained to be leaders and problem solvers while they instigate projects to help their own village.
You know, the solution to the problem of poverty is not as complicated as I used to think it was. The solution really rests within the villagers themselves. If we can help the villagers develop their own capacity, their own leadership, their own way of solving their own problems, and help them mobilize their own resources, we are halfway to the elimination of poverty.
Development is not just about what happens outside of a person. It is what happens inside, and the rest follows. The best resource any village has is in its own people who have been awakened to their own power and taught problem-solving abilities, shown that they can succeed through hands-on projects.
One of the common misunderstandings with people in the United States is that these villagers are really kind of lazy. They're kind of illiterate, kind of stupid. But I want to tell you from my experience that these people are not lazy. They work harder and with more energy than I ever imagined as I've observed this. But what's really interesting is to watch them begin to solve their own problems. When you give them training in leadership and in management and in program development, I am continually amazed at the competency and the intelligence, the common sense that these villagers have. And that's been one of our wonderful new lessons learned, is the quality of people that we're working with.
You empower people. Let them choose. Teach them skills. Give them entrepreneurship. Help them network. Give them vision.
Let me give you an example of this village leadership. In the country of Nepal, in an area called Duradanda, a group of villagers that had been trained with the choice new leadership approach decided they needed a new high school. And they went to the Minister of Education and he said, I'm sorry, you're not even on the list for a new high school. And the villagers said, well, how do we get on the list? And these village leaders confronted this minister and said, we will raise whatever it takes to get on the list. And he said, well, you need 40,000. They raised the 40,000 themselves among their own village resources. And then the minister said, well, I'm sorry, you still need to raise another 200,000. Now, most village leaders would have been discouraged by that. But these villagers had been through this training program that we're talking about. And they then went to the alumni of the high school, found them in India and the United States and Europe, and in less than a year, they raised the other 200,000. And that's a perfect example of this leadership concept that we're talking about.
Choice Humanitarian has been using this leadership development model in rural villages with great success. Now we are inviting you to join what we call the Circle of Abundance and do something remarkable. The hypothesis to be tested is to take roughly $30,000 a month to help 100,000 villagers in Nepal to start the process to eliminate poverty in 3 years through self-developing villages. This model will be carefully documented from start to finish so it can be duplicated around the world. What starts small promises to grow exponentially larger as we perfect the process. Why choose Nepal? Because it is a small country and a poor one. Because Choice has already successfully field tested this model in several villages and is ready to launch. Because a significant number of Nepalese villagers have already been trained, supported, and energized. Most of all, if extreme poverty can be significantly reduced in most of the 75 rural districts in Nepal, within a decade or two, the model will motivate other poor countries to do the same. We don't want you to see poverty as empty bellies and dirty faces. We want you to see the intelligence, the intuition, the potential, the hope. These people may be poor, but they are not poor in spirit. Join the Circle of Abundance with a monthly contribution and do something extraordinary. Through training, bring out the capacity of someone who hasn't had your opportunities and awaken their sleeping possibilities. There is no greater gift you could give. Join us.